Gotta love the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sales Chatter. I'm your co-host, Ryan Mohammed. With me is my main man, the Bodacious Cowboy, President and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, Jeff Dickinson. How you doing this morning, brother? How's everything?
Good, my man. It is Thursday, recap day of the last, 4 weeks or whatever. I mean, my God, I can't believe that it's already gone this fast. But you know what? With that said, let's get into this.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
When we first started out, you and I kind of planning how we kind of want the new year to kind of operate, and we did this in like November. So, of like, hey, let's switch it up. Let's give, even though we were bringing value every single day, let's switch it up. Let's have like a purpose and something from framework and things like that. And I never knew that this was going to go so well as it did. So first and foremost, before we even get started, I want to thank everybody for the support. The constant messages that both Jeff and I get. And it's for me, Jeff, the one thing that I really, really am thankful for is like these newer reps coming in and they're sending me messages like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm doing this. Do you have any tips or anything like that? And just them, we're just giving the knowledge. If they want to take the knowledge and they want to use it, it's up to them. But just being able to like say, hey, I was in your shoes once, I know exactly what you went through, like you've been going 4 weeks and getting straight voicemails. Try this, try to speed up the different things. So give a little feedback before we actually get into it, but of like how this year has went, what you kind of think about it, and we'll talk about what's next later on.
We created a plan and we worked the plan, right? We didn't know what direction it was going to go in for sure. We just kind of like spray and pray sort of thing, but it kind of worked out, definitely engagement. I get DMs all the time, so we must be connected. I mean, it's very subjective, and we've said this over and over again. We are giving alternatives. We are giving options. We're giving our experience, what we've gone through, what we experienced, by doing the things. It's almost like deduction by elimination, right? We've been there, we've tried it, it didn't work, so we tried an alternative, and that worked. Like I've said all the time, just because I say what I do doesn't mean that the same shoe fits all feet, right? So, it's we're in a good track, I think. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun, and Fridays being able to. We're looking forward. Good morning, DJ. Hope to see you out tomorrow with us for our fun day Fridays. And kids chatter. Apparently, episode 1 is going to start tomorrow. So for us, it's important to kind of give back, and that's the one thing I think for me, Jeff. The one thing that I've really really looked at is understanding that my quote unquote competitors like yourself or like that, they're allies. There's no competitors. We can all learn from each other and give different value ticks. So let's get into today. So what we're doing today is kind of like our season finale. We're recapping. We'll recap the whole 4 weeks as a whole, but we'll start off with week 4 and kind of go episode by episode, what we like, what we possibly didn't like, and kind of share some thoughts with you guys. So Jeff, the first episode that we did last week was going to be scheduling like a high performer. The mindset in that was that, hey, you've already done your 1,000 calls as a new rep coming in. You've put in the work. You've already booked your first load. How do you schedule that if you're a cradle to the grave rep? Basically, you're going from sales to operations. How do you control that?
Yeah. First and foremost, the way that I go about it is that I want to learn about everything about the operations of my client. How do they schedule things? Because we got to be congruent when you schedule that, because you've got to relate those conversations to your carrier, hopefully, so that everybody is on the same page. It's not just saying, okay, my carrier is going to be there tomorrow at 9:00. There's a reason why he's going to be there. Why 9:00, right? You have to put all those things together to make sure that everybody's on the same page. If you do that, if you just go about it and say, oh, I got my first load, I'm just going to fire it off and get that carrier in there, you're going to lose. You really are. So it's imperative when it comes to scheduling your first load that you have all your ducks in a row, that you've asked all the pertinent questions, whatever they may be, to make sure that you and your client are congruent as well as your carrier. You got to work close with everybody.
100%. And for me, the strategies I go into, especially with the first customer, I'm very hands on for at least the first 5 to 10 shipments,
Absolutely.
because everything, I feel like you got to put that little magnifying glass, because that's your credibility and reputation, right? That's gonna put stand you out from the rest to know that, hey, you're not like the other people out there. You're not going to drop the ball. You're going to be communicative. Like, hey, if I got to be 24/7 for those couple loads, then I got to be 24/7. But with that being said, I'm playing offense, right? So I'm going to schedule the right carrier. I'm not going for the cheapest price.
Oh,
I'm
no.
cool to make like 50 to 100 bucks on, or even break even on the first couple loads, knowing that I have a better carrier in my pocket rather than going with somebody who has, they just got their MC like 6 months ago, or they just got their internet 6 months ago, and they're doing a podcast now. But it was a good segue to that. But you kind of want to validate your carriers, and you want to validate your customers as well. Jeff, one of the things I look at when we're doing scheduling is I'll Google the what is it, the delivery and receiver address, not
Yeah.
just so I can get the contact numbers to call them, because that's later on to book appointments and stuff like that, but I'll go to see reviews. Truckers leave reviews on Google. I've seen so many locations where they see reviews. Oh, be prepared to wait, or you got a lumper fee, or hey, if you miss your appointment by 1 minute, then it's, you just kind of want to build a story. Obviously, living in this world, we tend to complain more. When's the last time you got good service and you left a good review, compared to, hey, that guy just cut me off, I'm gonna leave a review for him online, right? So take it with
More
a grain
those
of
than anything
salt.
else.
Yeah, exactly, from there, right? So like you said, we're scheduling like the first loads, things are going well. How do you balance your day? What does your day kind of look like? Because I feel like if you don't have a plan, you're failing to plan. Sorry, you don't have a plan, you're gonna fail to actually be able to
Yeah.
proceed in your career.
What's that saying?
I
If you
tried to
fail
find
to
it.
plan, you plan to
Yeah,
fail.
yeah, I tried to find that, but I couldn't get
I had to think
that.
about that for a second. Um, so here's the difference. I love being in the trenches. I book every one of my loads myself. I don't give to anybody else. I want hands on. I want to make sure that it's done right. Not to say that others wouldn't do the same way that I would do it, but I like to get to know my customers. First and foremost, one thing that I do, a lot of other people may have not have done, but maybe they will now. I go to Google Earth and I put up that address and I look at the facilities. I looked at the surroundings. I look how big this place is. How many doors do they have? I also have a customer facility profile that I have filled out. So I do that in the most extreme way, depending upon how big of an operation that it is. Because what I'll do is I'll take that company profile or facility, I should say, of their operations, and I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to take that exact thing and I'm going to give it to my carriers because now they know what I know. This is what they expect. Here's what they pay for detention. They have lumpers. It takes 2 hours to unload. It's scheduling. It's set sail, whatever it might be. It's important on those kind of things. The one-offs, you can do that.
Yeah,
There's no pressure on that, right? But on the big guys, the dedicated ones, you should have some type of procedure in place that covers you, that covers them, that covers your carrier. Again, relationships. You're trying to build one. So the more information that you know and the more information that you share, the better off you will be. It's when you start hiding things and you overpromise and you underdeliver, or you tell the carrier something that's not true just to get them in there to pick up the freight, you're screwing yourself. So
yeah. I've learned something from a really good shipper of mine. He basically said, because he understands both sides of the business, he's like, anybody could book a truck. Anybody can get a DAT login, anybody could get a truck stop or a load link login, and just strictly book trucks. It's the relationships that you're after, and being able to sell on those strengths. Obviously, we're never going to say no to an option, but we know what our strengths are and always kind of sell to that. And I think when it comes to scheduling, I remember when I was kind of cradle to the grave, I mentioned multiple times that, hey, I would come in, I'd have like 20 load confirmations on my desk. I'd have to do check calls basically up until 11 o'clock. 12 o'clock is lunch, go out, come back by 1, try to make some sales calls, but then you're kind of like you're more operational focused, right? And you're kind of going there. But the problem that I had, that I switched over to a sales role at the company that I work with now, is that I capped myself, Jeff. Like I was doing 50K GP a month and I couldn't grow. And there's a lot of reps like that. There's a lot of cradle to the grave reps where they just don't have that time to put in for like their prospecting hours to grow their business essentially. They're stuck at they have the loads that they're working in. They've moved to dedicated. So they got the dedicated going like clockwork, but then
Yep.
it's like, okay, well, something goes wrong, like tire blows or something like that, or different options kind of come from there. So I feel like managing your time is so important, and always kind of protecting your prospecting. We always go back to our Jeb Blunt episode of protecting your golden hours and fanatical prospecting. No matter what, one call a day is still better than zero. One email a day is still better than nothing, and it's that, like, in that loop to say that, oh my god, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, and then it's like there's so many times, I know Dan has talked about this numerous times, where you think you've done so much work, you've done so much work, and then you look at the GP, or you like look at your actual day, and you're like, oh my god, I only booked like 2 loads today. You're like, but I've been calling everybody, I've been doing all this stuff, and it's just, those non-sales activity. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Yeah, two things. And again, this is very subjective, but it's a really big question of mine that I put out there on LinkedIn yesterday. Let me ask you this question.
Yep.
You have one call, right? One call that you can make. You can go and reach out to a customer of yours that has a $15 million transportation spend, and you're already doing $2 million worth of business with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have the opportunity of reaching out to a prospect that has $25 million in transportation spend. Where are you going? Who are you going to call with that one call, and why?
Okay. So, I'm calling. Okay, so I've got two. Okay, so give me, because I know you never answer questions directly. So I'm gonna kind of open up here. How long have I been working with first a customer A?
You got $2 million worth of their business. You're already moving it. So it
Okay,
could
so
be, yeah, it could be, 6 months, 3 months, they're gung ho, they're firing off.
okay, 100%. Okay, so for me, if that situation is that I know that they have a $50 million spend, and I'm only getting, well, not only getting 2 million. 2 million is very big. But to increase that, I call them customer A. But I would always have customer A. I would already have that scheduled weekly call, so those conversations would be coming up. But to answer your question, to not beat around the bushes and not go through the gray area, I'm sorry, I'm calling customer A. That's like saying, like, hey, am I going to call Jeff for advice, or I'm going to call ABC company that I've never talked to before and try to get their advice? At least I know you're reputable. I know you have the freight. I know that you can move it.
Right,
So it's
right.
like you've got that. So that's my answer for you.
Right. So what's the average, right? And again, it's all subjective, all totally subjective. I'm not trying to tell people this is what they need to do.
100%.
How many calls does it take to get a client on board? Would you say as an average? I mean, I don't know. I've heard 8, maybe.
Yeah. It depends on people. So okay, so let me break it down for you, Jeff. To get a person on the phone for a discovery call,
Yeah.
I would say maybe takes me 3 to 4 touches. So that's a span, let's say every 2 days. So let's say about 8 days, about 1.5 week, right? To get somebody on the phone, a book call, to talk to them, and we're congruent and we're talking about business. I would say maybe that, yeah, 8 to 10, yeah, 8 to 10 kind of, 8 to 10 kind of touch after. So after we have that discovery call, usually with a discovery call for me, and everybody in the audience, correct me if I'm wrong here, if or it's something different, do different. Every
Right.
time I get off the phone on a discovery call, I always have some homework with me that they give me, and that's when I get to work. So they'll be like, okay, here's a couple lanes to work on. Let's see where you're at for pricing. And then that's where I kind of go into like creative mode. I'll look up at the data and I'll send different things. And that's what I kind of like to do. I like to do worksheets and give them everything. Throw them a Dean clip of him talking about the lane or something like that. But that's what I would do. And then it's either going to be yes or no, the price or not. And we're going to be in the middle. And then you kind of figure out, hey, are we willing to work together? Is this something that you're willing to take a chance? Are you willing to take trial runs with me? Are you willing to take trial runs from 5 to 10 loads with me? See what we do, prove our service, and we'll take it load by load, because like that's the one thing I've learned from you is, each load you're as good as your last load. So
Yes.
I would say, so coming back to your question, I'm sorry that I rambled off here, but
Oh, no,
to
no,
answer your
no,
question
no,
about
no.
8 to 10
That was
touches,
important.
eight to
Yeah,
ten touches to get somebody on board, and I think that span takes about 2 months. I would say 2 months. The average is 60 days to bring on a new client.
okay. So, and this is just my logics, okay?
Yep.
Because I always look at everything logical. What's logical for me?
Mm-hmm.
If it takes 8 calls, right, to try to get some, and you know, is this a $25 million customer that you're going after, or what's your gap for contacts as
So
far
I
as
don't. Yeah, I don't look at. I never look at revenue. I don't care about their transportation spend. I find out by their loads and what they kind of do, and I've got an idea, like looking at their DCs and things like that. So for me, I never look at what they spend or even ask them what they spend. I basically try to figure out, okay, what are you guys running? Am I going to be able to fit in here? And then we'll talk numbers
So you
afterwards.
go after all, right?
No, I have my niche. Well, within my niche. Like I'll never go after like a
And
steel customer.
it could be somebody that spends $100,000 a year up to, let's say, $15 million a
There
year.
we
A
go. Yeah,
wide variety, but they're
wide
all in
variety.
it, right?
Yep.
So here's the thing that I look at, right? If I let's just say if I have eight calls, right, and I have a big customer, well, I have a customer that's big, right, that I know has a $15 million transportation spend, and I'm moving $2 million worth of freight already. Personally, what I would do is I would take those eight calls that I know on average that it takes me to get anything from 100,000 to, let's just say, $1 million or whatever it might be, right? I'm going to engage with my customer that I'm already doing business because there's a high probability of getting the additional business from them. Why? Because they know what I'm doing for them, how I'm doing, how I'm communicating. So there's a higher probability of touching base with them than going out to a prospect. And in turn, you know they don't sit alone. There's always other partners or vendors who are feeding them, right? So that gets into the referral business, you know, recommendations and stuff. So that's the way my logics work. And like I said, it's very subjective. Everybody has their own, but it's about time. So I'm
Yeah, but
able to shrink the time spent and put it into an area that I know I have a higher probability, if that makes any sense. And granted, to get there, it takes a long time. Newbies coming into the business, you have no choice but to make 1,000 phone calls until you
yep.
get those clients on board. It's what you do with those clients when you get to that point, maybe a year later. I don't know how long it's going to take you. Some are faster than others, but what are you going to do with those clients to protect your time, increase your productivity, and be more effective and efficient in the role that you have? That's my point, right? I know I'm not stupid. Everybody that comes in has to make thousands of calls in order to get somebody on board. It's
Gotta
what
go
you
fishing.
do after that.
After that. And that's where we kind of that's where I'm glad that you opened your eyes because like the discussions that we have was
Well,
meant
it's
for that.
always been that way. I thought the only problem is that I failed to mention that, but I know
Okay, good.
that you have to do that. You
Yeah,
have to.
because you have to do that because like I always thought like the mentality
Unless you've
was like
been
no,
in the
no.
business for a long time, you don't have to.
Well, that's different. We're talking about new people coming
Yeah,
coming
right,
in here,
right. We're
right?
talking
So
about new people, and that's
new
what we're
people kind
trying
of
to
coming in and
focus
kind
on.
of go from there. And I think just coming back to what you kind of say, for me, it's not an either or. You kind of give them, you kind of like the way that you kind of like put it up is like if you have one call, I feel like my time is spread out so well that like I can manage both. It's not a big, but then again, disclaimer, everybody. I'm sales with ops. I'm not cradle to the grave. I'm not booking these trucks. I'm not doing those things. So those activities that to me that I see as non-sales activity is that I can put into sales activity. And David kind of brings up a great point here where he's kind of saying like personally they treat the clients all the same. Exactly. Looking at visual and then versus looking at the money. And that's the way that I've kind of see like protecting. That's why I've never looked at revenue. I've never looked at anything. If I could get along with people, the money will come. You serve somebody, the money will come. You're a server at a restaurant,
Absolutely.
you're giving the best
You're a
service,
servant.
that tip is going to come. So for me, I understand you're more strategic of it because of your experience in the industry, and that's amazing because like people, I see so many people leave messages that they've learned from that and they can be more tactical and like you said, be more productive, right? And that's what efficient, like a strategy, like a system, you're like a well-oiled machine, Jeff. So for me, I just kind of look at as people,
Yeah.
and the doors that I've had, like a conversation that I've had with a
Mhm.
really good customer has led to them going to another company and them pulling me over there too.
Yeah.
So it's just like maintaining them, talking to them, and I don't look at the numbers. The numbers always kind of follows from me, and any customer. Yeah, it's so true. I've seen so many numerous cases where like a VP of sales will call a company and then boom, they've got like 20 loads coming to them like right after that call, and you're like, what the hell just happened? But they've built that experience, right? So you look at it, Dan is a big believer of looking at everything at like a 10,000 view point. Like you go
Yes.
like a bird and you just kind of look at everything and look at your foundation. And that's the way I kind of operate. Like I've got my core customers. I'm always looking to add. And I think with you and I, Jeff, we're very like personable. We're very able to have conversations with people that
Oh,
why
definitely.
not talk to different people all the time? Like
I
why
do it all
not?
the time. Thank God I'm not an introvert.
Yeah, exactly from there. And and let everybody know what you're doing. And one point that I kind of wanted to make was that John Rogers made a point this morning that like his wife has his own business cards and he's always introducing to people what he does and things like that. And I think that is so important because before I used to say, okay, I'm a freight broker, this is what I kind of do, but now I live wear it proudly. My wife is a RMT. She tells me about referrals. What's crazy, my wife gets more prospecting done than I ever do. She'll be like, she's an RMT, right? So she has clients that come in from all walks of life, and a
Yeah.
lot of them are logistics managers, and they'll just be shooting the shit, and my wife is like, yeah, my husband does this, and those
Well,
kind of things that
she's
I
got
if I was to make that
credibility.
call.
She's got
There we go.
credibility.
She's got that
She's got
credibility.
a following. She's got experience. She knows what she's talking about. That's the whole thing. She's knowledge based. I would believe. I never met her, but I'll say that if you've got that going for it, you've got some knowledge. You are always reinventing the wheel and making yourself smarter every single day because you're learning. It's those who are stagnant
Yeah.
that don't have the discipline to be dynamic.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. They stay in that trench and they keep on digging that hole, but they just don't get out of it, and they get deeper and deeper. Those who explore, that look into other things and want to gain that knowledge, are the ones that are going to move faster than the others. You could be a rabbit or a snail. I mean, it's just the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's how you go about your daily routines. And people call them routines. I think routines come natural for those who have been in the business for a long time. I don't think we would call it routines because we're so set on what we do every single day. It's really not a routine. It's like waking up and getting dressed every day. It's something that comes natural. Other
Yeah.
people need to get into a routine.
Well, a routine, I quote me if I'm wrong here. I'm not quoting Webster's dictionary here, but a routine is a set of habits that you formed
Yes,
over time, right? So, like you said, brush your teeth. For me, walk my dogs. I have to walk my dogs every single day. There's no ifs, ands,
exactly.
or buts about it, and kind
Oh,
of
if
building that. But the one thing too when it comes to like routine is that everybody knows like I got my office here. When I come into the office, it's go time. It's not like and no time to play. It's I got that mindset from there, and I love how we're segueing into it because we've already talked about the first episode. The second
Yep.
episode is actually client retention, clients for life. So that's where we're kind of always kind of want to treat people like the way that they want to be treated and understand the people as people. I was talking to a rep last night and he was like, he's completely brand new and he was kind of going into it. And one thing I said was like, get to know them as people, share your experiences, listen to their experiences, freight, all that stuff will come out in the end. It might play the long game too.
Yep.
Jeff, talk about the long game because, like, for me, I was always like short-minded. Short, I was like, "Hey, why? Like, we move some freight. Why are we moving more? Like, let's play this." But then I've had situations where I reach out to a customer. They're like, "Okay, reach out to me next year," and I reach out and I kept that monthly follow-up and things like that. And then after a year or two, we're moving freight together and we're actually building relationships. And it's like before I would have been like, "Okay, let me just take this person off my CRM." But talk to everybody about clients for life and the long-term game.
Yeah, clients for life, and I've felt this way forever, and I'll tell you why. The client for life mentality is this: it's cheaper to keep a client on board than to find a new replacement. It costs you a lot of money to do so. So, what are you going to do for your client to keep them satisfied, to keep them in your corral? You know, I've been lucky enough that since I started my business, I would say all of my clients are still on board with me. Okay. I'm just lucky, but it comes down to how do you service, how do you react to incidents when they come up? Am I incident free? Hell no. I work in the logistics industry, and so do you, and you get blindsided every single day. You have no idea what's going to happen this afternoon. A truck could get on fire. It could be an accident. You could get an irate customer. It's how you look at the what ifs. what happened? I say it all the time. You know it, Ryan. It's like, what happens if this happens? How am I going to respond to this incident? You know, am I going to be empathetic? Am I going to be defensive? Am I going to be offensive? You know, how am I going to conduct myself when these issues come up? It's so pertinent to your success. You know, you have to put yourself in the seat of the shipper, the seat of the carrier, you know, and then also apply what you feel as a service provider. And you have to put this all together. I always say that you have to be like a psychologist, a master of different personalities every single day, because you don't know who you're going to talk to. So that is the key right there, is how you service and what you say and how you say it.
100%. And I love that last piece that you said about human psychology. Anybody who's getting into sales, just in general, forget like the self-help books or like the sales books or anything like that. Like those will come after, but focus on psychology, human psychology, because the getting to know people's and start with why with like Simon Sinek and things like that. Those are like the core of what we are as human beings and being able
Absolutely.
to connect with that. So I think that's so important. And you're right. I agree with that 100%. The clients for life. I've always believed in that. I work with some of the same customers that I have, and just seeing that relationship grow over time. It's just like you said, like why would I want to go out? Like I still go fishing, but like I still want to nurture what I have, right? You
I always
farm,
carry
and
my cell phone with me.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. Yeah, I'm still available. You know, like
let's put it this way, right?
yep.
When a customer calls, there's a reason why they call,
Mhm.
especially when you haven't spoken to them in a while and everything's working like that. You better answer that phone. You know, you should just don't take it for granted. Oh, it's so and so, everything's working well. I'll get back to her or him this afternoon. No,
Yeah.
immediately pounce on that right away. I mean, that's what it's all about, man. It's responding and how you respond to and what you say and how you say it.
Well, it's always what we talk about is right. Control the controllables. We, like you just said, we can't control a truck that gets on fire, but I can control picking up that phone. I can control my output in terms of what I'm doing with prospect and talking to my customers, having that engagement. I can control talking to people about learning about different things. There's other sales reps that are more tenure than me that we bounce off ideas off of each other, and we're just always kind of learning from there. So yeah, big believer. I know you're a big believer in control the controllables as well, Jeff.
Absolutely.
From there. So let's get into the last episode as we kind of coming up to the end here. But what did we talk about? We went on to talk about one of my favorite topics, which was your first commission check. Um, it was getting that first feeling. That was based on human psychology as well. Like, you've done this
Yes.
journey, you've progressed, you've put in the work, everything is accounted for. It's time to stop and smell the roses. Enjoy what you've done. I know you don't remember it, Jeff, what you kind of did with it, but what was that feeling like when outside of that first year, $9,000, when you're like, I can do this. This is my career.
Well,
I'm in it for life.
I'll be honest. The first commission check that I got, I looked at it. I go, oh boy, this sucks.
How am I going to pay the bills this month?
I'm being honest. You know, it's like, and then the wheels start turning in your head. What the hell am I doing wrong? You know, I've been in this. I question myself. I've been in this industry for such a long time. This is the tough side of the fence, man. You know, the sales side. And I say it all the time. This is tough. How am I going to circumvent this area of my life to produce more than I ever expected, even when I was getting a salary? That was my expectation for my own self, you know? How am I going to do this? And then I started tapping. I started tapping into my experience and my background and writing notes and all of this. It was a sucky year, man. It was a complete sucky year. And I know there's a lot of people out there that felt the same way as I did and probably debated whether or not, and I would say a majority of them would be throw in the towel, man. I'm out, man. I can't do this. I can't do this because you just lost faith in yourself. I mean, you can pull yourself out of, what's that? Pull the phoenix out of the fire or something like that. That it's like it may be burning now, but you can put the water on it and you can cool things off and be very happy with what you do if you figure it out. And that takes a lot of effort. It's
Yeah,
not going to happen overnight. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just being honest.
Yeah, so you see, I'm the complete opposite, right? Like I was extremely happy with my first commission check and being able to kind of give back and things like that. And for me, the way that I kind of saw it was like, okay, I can do this. This I can do this. This is something that I want to push forward to. I can continue to do this. And mind you, my first commission check was like, I think I was only working with like two customers, and I think I had maybe 30 loads. I think maybe we did that in like that 3 months. So that was actually my first commission check, and I was like, okay, cool. Like this is something that I want to keep pushing for. And obviously that's we're in a very lucrative industry. You do the work, you have great customer relationships, you have great carrier relationships, the universe is going to reward you, man. The universe always wants to reward you as long as you make in those daily habits of doing the work, right? And I think one of the worst things that you can do, Jeff, is say you're going to start tomorrow. Not
Yeah,
there's 2 days that are the worst days in the world, tomorrow and yesterday. You got to
it's so
focus on
funny
today.
though. It's so funny, you know. So my first year when I said everything sucked, you know what I say now? Guess what I say like right now, like today, and I've been saying it for a while. What do you think I'm going to say?
That you should have invested in Zoom stock. No, I'm just joking. That this is the best industry that you've ever been in. You got to pull me away from my desk, is what
Okay,
you say.
so I wish I did this 20 years ago. What I know right
Yes.
now, I wish I did this 20 years ago, and I didn't work for the companies that I did. But then again, there's a backside of this. If I didn't work for the companies that I did, I wouldn't get that experience and that background that was needed to put myself in this position right now. So I mean, it's like you kind of put the cart before the horse, but now I have 8 horses in front of my cart that's pulling it. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Love that
yeah.
analogy.
So it took a long time to get here, but it's growing. I mean, when you grow by 334.12% year over year, that's damn good, man. It's working for me, but that didn't happen in the first year. But
Yeah.
like I said, I wish I did this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think about that, but then I understand like God's timing is God's timing, right? So I'll tell you this. I had a
I'm,
crossroad when I got interviewed, Jeff. My boss asked me, my first job, he asked me if I want to go to sales or I want to go into operations. I thank God every day that I said operations and I learned the industry in 2 years.
yes.
Because if I said sales, I probably would have been fired in like like I would probably, I just wouldn't have went with it. That was a
It's a great
structure where you
foundation. I really do. I think it's a
mess up.
great foundation to the sales side. I think it's struggling when you get into sales and you don't have that operations side because there's so much more that you have to learn rather than going into the operations and then coming to the sales. You already know that side of the business that you're calling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But when you get it when you're new and you come into the industry and you haven't worked in there and you're like, I want to be a broker. That's why I said to Scott Armstrong Industries, right, that it's too bad that brokerages out there can't bring these new people that are coming on board and bring them to a warehouse or DC to actually feel, and absorb what they go through every single day and just tap the knowledge of a traffic manager or a logistics manager. I think it would be so advantageous for the sales side if they just heard it from the horse's mouth, like this is what we're up against every day. You know, it would drive it home. I really believe in that.
Yeah, especially when you're looking at investing. Like I think we talked about training already, so I won't get into it too much. But every company has a choice, right? Like they know. I know when I worked in the telecom industry, Jeff, like they bring on like classes of 30 people for training, and it would be like a 2 month intensive training. They knew that only like 15 to like 20 people of that is going to stick. Right. So they base their numbers based on that 15 to 20. And same thing happens in logistics as well. They base if 4 people are going to get hired, realistically, we're probably going to keep one or two, and then kind of go
Sure,
from there. But that's from
absolutely.
there. So, we've had an amazing 4 weeks of content. We've been killing it. I think we've getting so much value. Anthony is somebody who's been a great viewer and a great watcher, and Damon as well.
Yeah,
Lisa,
communicating with
everybody.
him. Good guy.
Yeah. He's a great guy, and for us, like we're intrigued to see what the future brings. So Jeff and I will be discussing. We'll announce it tomorrow what our theme is going to be for the next 4 weeks as we kind of talk about our next season. So don't worry. We're switching up the content a little bit. You don't have to hear about me and my dogs anymore. Or you don't have to hear about Jeff and he doesn't make any sales calls. Well, we'll switch it up. We'll keep it
But
different.
yeah, but plus side is now you get to listen to a little bit of chill music before we go live. So that's important.
I
Right
love
there.
that, Jeff.
So you don't
All right,
have
Jeff.
to see these guys gonna come live now. You get to chill, listen
You
to
get
some
to you
live.
get to hang out. We give you that elevator music for you.
Calm your ass down before you listen to us.
Exactly. Jeff, give me some final thoughts on how this 4 weeks have gone.
It's gone great.
Just
It's gone great. I appreciate all the comments and also the DMs. That a lot of folks reached out to me, asked me questions. Again, we're here to serve, to give our opinions, alternatives, and options to what you do on a daily basis. Whether you choose to use them, that's up to you. But at least you have an idea and something to think about. So I appreciate all you guys out there joining us on a daily basis, and we'll try to keep on bringing some good content to you over the next 4 weeks. So
perfect.
thank you.
Crush it. So thank you for everybody for coming out today, and like all the previous episodes, and like we said, thank you for all the good wishes. We're here to serve you guys. So any kind of topics you guys want us to talk about, let us know. Shoot us a message, shoot us a DM, leave in the comments, let us know. With that being said, we'll be hitting the replay at 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern time, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter tomorrow, Friday Fun Day. We're gonna have some fun. We kick up, enjoy the fast week that has been, the fast month that has been. Last Friday before Valentine's Day, so maybe we'll get into some Valentine's Day themed questions or something like that. But with that being said, thank you everybody for coming out. Jeff?
The Bodacious Cowboy out.